prisoners. In Iowa, about a third of people in prison have a serious mental illness. Another quarter have a chronic mental health diagnosis. Meanwhile, nearly half of the people executed nationwide between 2000 and 2015 had been diagnosed with a mental illness and/or substance use disorder in their adult lives. When a legal settlement required California to build a psychiatric unit on its death row at San Quentin, the 40 beds were filled immediately. The mental health crisis is especially pronounced among women prisoners. One study by the U.S. Bureau of Justice Statistics found that 75% of women incarcerated in jails and prisons had a mental illness, as compared with just over 60% and 55% of men, respectively. A more recent study showed that 20% of women in jail and 30% in prison had experienced serious psychological distress in the month before the survey, compared with 14% and 26% of men, respectively. Although the overall number of people behind bars in the United States has decreased in recent years, the proportion of prisoners with mental illness has continued to go up. In 2010, about 30% of people at New York's Rikers Island jail had a mental illness. In 2014, the figure rose to 40%, and by 2017, it had gone up to 43%. Studies of the most frequently arrested people in New York, Los Angeles, and elsewhere have found that they are far more likely than others to have mental illness, to require antipsychotic medications while incarcerated, and to have a substance use problem. That there are so many people with mental illness locked in our jails and prisons is but one piece of the crisis. Along with race and poverty, mental illness has become a salient feature of mass incarceration, one that must be accounted for in any discussion about criminal justice reform. Mental illness affects every aspect of the criminal justice system, from policing to the courts to prisons and beyond. Nor are the effects limited to the criminal justice system. Many people with mental illness cycle back and forth between jail or prison and living in the community. The racial inequity of the criminal justice system has been widely noted. It is estimated that 1 out of every 3 African American men and 1 of every 6 Hispanic men born in 2001 will be arrested in their lifetimes. But for Americans with serious mental illness, it is estimated that as many as 1 in 2 will be arrested at some point in their lives. It's not just arrests. 1 in 4 of the nearly 1,000 fatal police shootings in 2016 involved a person with mental illness, according to a study by The Washington Post. The Post estimated that mental illness was a factor in a quarter of fatal police shootings in 2017, too. People with mental illness are among the most disadvantaged members of our society, and when they end up in the criminal justice system, they tend to fare worse than others. People with mental illness are less likely to make bail and more likely to face longer sentences. They are more likely to end up in solitary confinement, less likely to make parole, and more likely to commit suicide. Yet jail and prison have become, for many people, their primary means of getting mental health care. Their experiences offer an especially eye-opening view of a criminal justice system that today houses more than 2 million people and costs us hundreds of billions of dollars a year. Diagnosing and treating mental illness is complicated. Unlike physical diseases like diabetes or cancer, there is no definitive test, and our assumptions about what constitutes craziness have continued to shift over the centuries. In biblical times and still today in some cultures, seeing visions or hearing voices is an indication of holiness, not madness. I spoke to the mother of a man with severe mental illness who recalled telling her son that the voice he heard couldn't be Jesus because Jesus would never say such awful things. Others might consider it a sign of mental illness to hear Jesus saying anything, good or bad. Even medical understanding of sanity is ever-changing. As recently as 1973, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, the preeminent guide to psychiatric diagnosis and treatment, listed homosexuality as a disease. It was not until 1987 that homosexuality was completely removed from the DSM. Beyond the difficulties of diagnosis, finding an effective way to treat serious diseases such as bipolar disorder or schizophrenia is often a matter